I just want to kind of start off by giving you guys the overview, kind of what's going on right now and where our mindset is and should be. The 90% of the genes that we still have through everything in the research right now shows that they're almost identical or are identical to the genes of our ancestors. So when we look at the way we live right now and the correlation with health and disease and compare it to the ways of our old ancestors, when you start looking at some of the numbers and a lot of the chronic diseases that we see today, it can be mirrored on, the Western diet, the Western lifestyle that everyone talks about. And now that's kind of starting to transfer to other places around the world. The Western diet is becoming more global with industry, and so these problems are starting to leak into other areas that didn't have them before, so it's even showing more correlation, like, yep, this stuff is...
Is this comparing it when we were hunters and gatherers?
Yep.
Or when we became agriculturalists and stationary?
Hunter-gatherers. This is before any kind of industry or agriculture. Domestication of plants and animals is definitely something that has altered some of the microbiome as we go along, and that's where a lot of the research is right now, actually, is the kind of interspecies communication between plants, animals, and our gut, the bacteria in our gut. And I'll go over that a little bit. A lot of it's obviously really deep subjects that are hours and hours of presentations on just one thing alone. So I'm doing absolutely the best I can here to give you guys the summaries of the information and, give you kind of unbiased recommendations on what I know, and if I don't know, where to look in the future for yourself. And that's a big part of it too that I'll get into more. The biggest idea is shifting our mindset from preventing disease or curing disease, that reactive system that we have, that approach, and shifting more to proactive as opposed to preventing disease, optimize health. Because then you're getting two birds, one stone. If you optimize the health, you're improving the body's ability to filter itself, to go through the processes it needs to, utilize the pathways it needs to run efficiently. And really what we're looking at is just improving life quality. How can we live healthier and happier? And if we do that, we're going to automatically save a lot of the problems that we're seeing now because we're catching it before it happens. Hippocrates, one of my favorite quotes, it's in here somewhere, I think. The superb physician treats disease before it occurs. It's exactly what we're trying to do, and I tried to put together a little analogy here, just the way I see it. Imagine you're standing at the bottom of a playground slide, metal playground slide, and there on the slide, like on the right side, say, there's a little piece of metal sticking out, and you're standing at the bottom of the slide. Why focus on what Band-Aid to put on that kid's knee or how to treat the scrape when you could just simply go to the top of the slide and tell the child about the jutting out edge or whatever so they can completely avoid it in the entire process. It's about optimizing health to immediately prevent those diseases from occurring, just as a direct consequence of shifting your attention from preventing negative to promoting positive. And that's huge in psychology, coaching, learning. It goes all the way through any of the research you'll do in those areas: attention, mindset, focus. Heavily studied that you want to use positive cues and not negative cues. When you're trying to teach someone something, you don't teach them what not to do, you teach them what to do. So as opposed to having them thinking about, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, it's going to increase their probability of doing that simply because their attention is focused on that. If you have them just thinking, do this, do this, do this, not only are they going to focus on that task, but their probability of doing it properly is going to increase because there are no other areas involving that attention gateway, so there's more focus on what you want. So that's really what we need to do with our healthcare industry, which is why it's a neck up issue. It's not a neck down issue. We have a lot of individuality, but the one thing that we all have is a conscious mind that can make individual decisions every single day that optimizes not only your health, but the health of everyone around you. And obviously that's my goal, as you can tell from everything I do here in my work. All I'm trying to do is mirror that idea in myself to other people and show you along the way, like, hey, I do this too. This is how I do it, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because I came from a background of having no idea and self-taught myself how to optimize health, and now that I have kind of a grasp on it, my mission is just pay it forward because it's improved my life, and I want other people to feel that too. So it's that mindset shift that we need to make, and that is going to result in more of that positive outcome. Here's a couple stats I found that this is through a lot of synopsis of research from top-end doctors. I follow credible sources, and some of these do have peer-reviewed literature, so you can look deeper into the subjects. But 50% average human daily consumption of food is white sugar, white flour, or vegetable oil. And all three of those things, we just compile the evidence that shows they're not good for you. And again, that's another whole class, but just taking the summary of the science and showing that when you process foods, take them away from their natural state, when you add synthetic stuff to the food, when you do things unnatural, it's going to have an unnatural response in your body. And that unnatural response, I'll get into in greater detail, is that's it right now. The inflammatory response in the body is the battle going on inside of you between the bad and the good stuff being your good bacteria, your cells trying to function and optimize your health, filter out those bad things that we thought might have had an influence, the toxins, the chemicals. They do. The science is showing more and more that all of this stuff does matter in the exosome, which I'll get into more a little bit here, but it's just the environment you're within from birth to death that absolutely affects everything, even if you can't see the expression on the outer holistic layer of the structure of the organism. You even see it in chemistry. Molecular structure can change without seeing a compromise in the change of the total structure. So even though you might not look sick, if you're doing things bad to your body, you're going to be sick on the inside, and that's the long-term, short-term mindset. Another big issue when it comes to reasons for disease, we sit our entire childhood through school. That's also getting exacerbated because we're taking recess out. It's a very big issue. Obviously right now there's a lot of people advocating for standing up. Standupkids.org is a really good one by a coach that I follow. Him and his wife, Kelly Starrett and Julie Starrett, they're both just doing everything they can. They're doing flash mobs at schools where they're having kids stand up and run around and just do stuff, get the idea going. I mean, all the cognitive, neuromuscular research showing action plus thought equals better learning and retention and neurogenesis, better neural development. It makes sense. Make the body work and move to learn better. After we go through 18 years of school, then we get a job and we sit at work, and then we go home and we sit on the couch, and now we start to shift into entertaining ourselves while we're sitting or playing games and watching movies, or going to movie theaters or sitting down. So, obviously we want to make sure that we start to address movement because of all of the benefits it has to the body. Circulation is absolutely everything. Motion is lotion. I stole that one from Dr. T, Dr. Tinks did. So that's absolutely true. Every single system in the body needs to have that pump run, just like all the old adages and the ancient wisdom, that origins, all of those things are coming up now in scientific research, and it's really cool to see. I was listening to a talk that was talking about the reductionists are starting to revert back to the whole. They're getting so small and so minute and finding out those little details that for so long we weren't sure about, and all it's doing is just sending us back to the beginning and showing us, yes, it does matter in the totality of the entire thing. So it's cool to see those two things coming together. That cycle needs to happen. We need to move. We need to push out the old. We need to bring in the new. Our brains and body were built for constant movement and engagement, and sitting is one of the highest leading lifestyle contributors to atherosclerosis and heart disease. So again, that's one of the biggest leading causes of death, so we need to address that. Average hours of sleep a night is 6. It's been a steady decline for the past 3 to 4 decades. The recommended minimum is 7. Obviously, you have to factor in a lot of different lifestyle activities per person, depending on what your job is. If you're getting, the therapeutic benefits of breathing techniques, yoga, stress relief, taking naps, whatever it may be, petting a kitty, anything that's going to help your body produce the chemicals and neurotransmitters and hormones necessary to relieve the stress, decrease the cortisol, and again, just improve function. We're going back to that over and over, is improve the whole. So sleep, we know that's a big one. We hear that all the time. Work days are longer, stress levels are increasing. That's directly related to an increase in cortisol. Cortisol is that mean hormone that if we have too much of it for too long, it can start to break us down. Directly affects then the adrenal hormone, adrenaline, and the adrenal glands start to get fatigued. We hear that all the time now. It's a buzzword, adrenal fatigue. It's really true because we're not allowing our body to let that pump run through and continue to optimize ourselves. So the hormones that are really trying get tired, and when those are fatigued, then that's when the cortisol has to come in and do that extra work, and too much cortisol, bad results. So work days, have to be mediated. You're seeing a lot more of like sensory deprivation chambers and works and nap pods and things like that. Go have your 15 minutes. I'll get into apps actually next, but use apps on your phone. The technology is a double-edged sword. It can lead to over-reliance, but it can also be your accountability partner, and it can be your reminder to help you actually condition yourself. You have to literally condition yourself over time with simplicity and consistency to build those habits to increase your lifestyle, or your health through your lifestyle. It's little changes. Kind of going into what I was just saying, obsessive involvement with work or social media, online communities, technology, creating a sense of a false reality really is, in my mind, the issue of mentally trying to find a route to escape to not face the issues of responsibility that you have. And with knowledge comes responsibility. You find out these things about yourself and about the way things run, and you immediately are involved in the process of trying to make it better, or at least conscious of that decision that you make every day, whether or not it is a good decision. So you have to really make sure that you're not over-relying on any kind of one thing, technology included. Alienation from community groups and tribes that we used to live in, that's probably, as of right now, where the scientific research is going, the most influential thing there is when it comes to health and disease risk. One really interesting topic is social genomics, which, if I can find it here, is the study of how your relationships and your community that you repeatedly surround yourself with have a significant impact on your health and disease. The need to emphasize the power of community is essential right now, and the mindset and community health research is shown to time and again improve the HPA axis and the way your hormones produce themselves. So social exercise is a great example of this with social genomics, and you see it all the time in ancient origins, all the way from yoga, qigong, tai chi, just people getting together and doing dance, and any kind of social exercise is going to cause these hormones to get produced and the benefits to happen. One of the biggest ones is the production of oxytocin. Oxytocin is the cuddle hormone. You hug somebody, you pet a baby, those kind of things produce oxytocin, that feel good. Those neurotransmitters and the endorphins get released into your body, and you have that good response. That good response, that positive value, immediately, whether you consciously think so or not, is conditioning yourself to repeat that behavior in the future. If you experience something positive, logically you're going to want to experience that again. It happens on a biochemical level with your neurotransmitters. If you experience something that was negative in your life, you're going to disassociate with that as much as possible and not let it happen again. So when we start to think about that in terms of social health and individual health, the more that we're around people and happy around people and in that good community, those are the people that we tend to get closer to, your family, your tight-knit group of friends, the people that associate same values with you. So social exercise is a great way to produce that oxytocin, rebalance that HPA axis, and the two kind of effects of that are repairing the adrenal production and reducing the cortisol. So there we go. We just brought up our energy levels. We started to balance our mood. We started to cure a lot of those problems associated with mood disorders. And at the same time, we're reducing inflammation. We're reducing cortisol. We're reducing stress. So we're, again, feeding back into that system of making the overall structure run better just by introducing social exercise. And it can be in a variety of formats, but as the research shows, that's the #1 best way to produce oxytocin that we've looked at right now. And it would make sense then that it's been used for so long throughout history as a remedy to keep people healthy and happy together. You go do yoga with somebody and you're less likely to go beat someone up afterwards. You're in a good mood and you understand and appreciate that relationship you have, that experience you had with other people. Yeah.
Just a quick question. Are these socially designed robots that are being designed and made in Japan for are they having the same positive benefit for the age?
I'm not sure. I don't know much about the robotics.
A lot of robots in all different sizes and shapes and forms, like animals or, you know.
I would say just from, I've done some pretty extensive research on mirror neurons, and those are the neurons in our brain that when we see a task, we replicate a computer program of that task. So if we see someone jump over a log, we, without ever jumping over a log in our life, can repeat that task just by action observation. So when we see other people do things in our environment, we're creating programs in our brain of doing that itself. So, you know, the old adage, like, show me your 5 best friends and I'll show you your future, or you are who you surround yourself with. Those things are true. So in that sense, it could have some positive benefit. I mean, if you program a nice computer robot to, you know, do good things in your environment and, you know, consciously give you, you know, every 20 minutes a positive cue or feedback in that way to just feed into that positive classical conditioning system, or operant conditioning, sorry, where you're actually teaching a different response. You know, I think there's a lot of merit to that in hypnotherapy and deep sleep. I listen to a deep sleep audiobook myself. It's one of my recommendations on here. And, you know, it's classical or operant conditioning. You know, if you have something telling you good things for 8 hours a day, that's 33% of your active lifetime. You know, that's a lot of stimulus and response. I think there's a lot of power there that the subconscious can receive that we might not be consciously aware of, but it's still the conditioning response to the lizard brain that's happening. So yeah, I think there's a huge amount of hope in that area of, you know, possibly helping to reduce or prevent Alzheimer's, in the sense of having a companion that you can have a conversation with, play little games with. You know, they've shown the card games and like cribbage and things where you're doing simple math, little challenging games, spatial orientation, numbers, memory retention. All of that is stimulating nerve cell growth. All of that is, you know, pushing on that pump, getting that circle to go. So used properly, absolutely. Over-reliance and possibly manipulation or maluse could be bad though, too, just like anything. Guns don't kill people, you know, it's the intent of the tool. So I'm interested in robotics, and actually looked a little bit into neurorobotics, where it's that figuring out the programs we have in our brain and how to put that into computer code and put it into a robot. But I mean, it's so complex with the constant dynamic feedback we get that even getting a robot to pour a glass of water is like a dissertation study right there, just to get it to pour it into the glass, you know. So I mean, the immensity of that is pretty deep. It's going to take a long time, but big hope in all of the industries. You know, we're looking at that kind of shift right now where we can use technology in so many different ways. You know, like, that was just a spitball idea of how it could possibly be used, but you're probably thinking of 5 other ones that I didn't even think about, you know. So there's definitely a lot of positive application for that. I think there's a cool future in technology in that way.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So are you completely dismissing self-help?
No, absolutely
You know,
not.
because all of this, you know, the group thing and everything like that, but you know, there are so many different, well, maybe not anymore, because I quit reading that kind of thing, but you know, there used to be so many self-help books and, you know, self-talk and all this other stuff. And
Absolutely.
you haven't mentioned that at all, so
Yeah,
you know,
I
how
mean,
does that fit into your scheme?
100%. This, like I said, I've got 45 minutes to try to give you years of personal investigation, you know, but self-help is, I taught myself these things. I most of the time didn't have a mentor. I had some guidance here and there, but self-help, I mean, there's so much knowledge, there's so much information out there. You just have to open yourself to it. Like you said, there's books and books and books. I've read a lot of them, and they work. I'll tell you what, they've changed my life. I act differently because I think differently. You think differently, you feel differently. If you feel differently, you behave differently. It's a direct consequence of, like you said, finding the individual, changing yourself. But how can you make that process go along faster? How can you make it smoother? How can you improve it? We know it works, let's make it better. Use the community. Use the tools and resources you have around you, the technology you have to make those processes go smoother. You know, the Fitbit, checking your heart rate, and MyFitnessPal, calorie trackers, and just different websites, nutritionfacts.org, more stuff I'll get into, but just there's lots of resources, and it's the individual and the community. It has to be a mesh of both. You can't have one without the other. So I think that's very important to point out, that the individual matters a lot, and you can teach a lot of yourself. All those things, you can learn that yourself. But I really think exposing it to the community and getting people on the same page is our more important priority right now in this time period to get us to shift from reactive to proactive. We need to start thinking about it more together as opposed to limited to the individual. Any other questions on that before I break off? So yeah, that's the social exercise. And really the reason I'm so adamant about it is because it is the best production that we've found through research to produce those good feeling things that are going to make you apt to do those good decisions and improve your life in that way. One of the other big things, let's see, did I miss anything? Okay, yeah, actually, let's go into the apps a little bit, but especially the title, like the paleo autoimmune, it's not what we ate in the Paleolithic era necessarily. We're just modeling guidelines of proverbs, knowledge that we've accumulated over years, and it shows that there are certain things to do right and there are certain things that you don't want to do. So it's not necessarily the idea of paleo or spreading that message. It's sensible choices to make and optimize your living environment for the human organism to grow and thrive. That's all we're trying to do, is just make everyone live better lives. And you have to personally dedicate your brain to thinking about making positive change to actually feel and do it. You have to take that control. So, I guess that is my tie-in point to the individual there, because it is our individual responsibility, each and every one of us. So that's the cool thing about technology. Here's some apps right here. You can jot these down if you want. Google Calendar is real basic, obviously, to set up reminders in your phone, but 7 weeks to a new habit, that's one that I use. It's really awesome. You can put in any habit you want, and it sets up 49 days on a calendar, and you can check off a green X, a red X that you didn't do it, or circle that you missed it, or something there other.
That's right. I needed some help with mine, but you guys are doing shit. Thanks.
Can you say it again, John? 7 weeks?
Yeah, 7 weeks to a new habit. It's if you put that in the App Store, you'll find it. I'm pretty sure that's the direct name of it, though. 7 weeks, and it'll probably come up that way too. But you can put in as many as you want. Like I've got my vitamins on there. I have fill up your water filter every day, and I just have things that simple, consistent steps that I set in my life to make those positive changes. AM vitamins, PM vitamins, change my water filter, just little things like that. You can set up any reminders you want. It's what's cool is 7 weeks later, in theory from the research, different habits require different amounts of attention and time to learn and master. But a lot of those little basic things, after 7 weeks, you've got it. You've got that habit. You've built it down. And if you see that green X, you build that positive reaffirmation every single day, you're more apt to have that. So that app, and it's really cool, it'll send you a reminder twice a day, 3 p.m. Hey, by the way, did you check off your morning ones? How you doing? Just check them off. Hope everything's going good. So, those little kind of positive reaffirmations and reminders, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go do that. So those little things help a lot. Calm is an app I also use. It's a meditation app, and it's absolutely glorious. In fact, I can just pop this one up and pass it around real quick, just because it's so cool. It's free, and it's a little meditation app where it just puts on scenery, and you can change it. I mean, there's like 40 of them, and it animates them. Let's get a cool one. So here's one flying over the water. Some of them are silent. Some of them have music to them. Some of them have just the sound of the nature. It's taking a little while to load because I don't have my Wi-Fi on right now. But normally these are, okay, here's a really cool one. Let's see if I can get it to connect. There we go. So it's just a little animated. This one's more music. But I mean, you can throw it on for 5-10 minutes, any little thing like that to bring yourself down from work. Between clients, I'll throw that on. Bring yourself down from that up, sympathetic, fight or flight. Bring the anxiety down, take some deep breaths. Little apps like that make a huge difference in your energy levels, especially in the later part of the day. Help you go to sleep. MyFitnessPal is another one that's a nutrition tracking one. The other one that's nutrition tracking is MyNet Diary. Both of those I've used. I like them. You can customize them, set how many calories or macronutrients you want, carbs, proteins, fats. You can set your goals. You can have it send you reminders. Hey, did you log your stuff today? Keeps you on track for progress, measuring weights. All of those things that help you in this arena when you come to the gym or when you come to the kitchen, okay, putting actionable steps together of what to do, that really objectifies numbers for you and makes it easy. Another app that I love, audible.com. I have that on my phone, and it's audiobooks. You get, for a membership, it's $15 a month. You get one free book of absolutely any in their library a month, and then you can buy extra book credits on top of that. But it's fantastic. I have a couple deep sleep hypnosis ones that I'll throw on before I go to bed. Just helps with improving deep sleep, improving REM, creative dreaming, lucid dreaming. I've absolutely noticed a difference, so I started doing it probably about 3 years ago. And I'll contribute that one of my primary changes I've noticed in like my sleep, my overall attitude throughout the day. I'm just a lot more present and kind, I guess, gentle, just from listening to that. And it's just positive vibes, you know, coming in, and it's just like a guide taking you through dream states. There's tons of them. You can YouTube them first, check it out if you want. But audible.com, just a great way to get, again, classically condition yourself with positive information. Positive thinking, this is another app I have where you get quotes sent to you, positive little quotes that are like, you know what, and you can customize them too. You can have famous people quotes that just randomly get sent to you. You can customize them. Like I have one that's just, I am healthy and happy, and it comes to me every single day, and it just shows an apple, and it just is that reaffirmation clicking in my brain, storing that computer program, I am healthy and happy. Just continuing to build those reaffirmations. If anybody's heard of Lumosity.com, it's kind of a brain game. Lumosity.com.
Yeah, it's on Microsoft.
Yeah, brain games kind of thing.
What's the first word?
Lumosity, LUMOSITY.com. And it's just you sign up, free account, and you play like 3 or 4 little 2-minute games each day. And it's just to build all those little areas of the brain, turn on the nerve cells, turn on everything, get the brain functioning and learning and remembering information better. It's great for memory and retention, Alzheimer's, that kind of stuff. Playing those little online games, all that kind of stuff really helps, even card games, where you're just using your brain in a cognitive sense. Another cool app that I found for time management is Forest. That's what it's called, and you set a time, 5 minutes, 2 hours, whatever you want, and it counts down, and it's the home screen of your cell phone until it's done. And if you exit out of your cell phone, it kills the tree that you were planting, and depending on how long the time is, you'll build a little tree or a big tree. It saves your trees, and you literally build a forest of trees of saving, you know, or by not using your phone. So it's a great way if you're like sitting down at the desk or something, and you're like, okay, don't look at my phone, don't look at my phone. You know, you can just have an app that puts it on home screen. You keep looking, you see the little tree growing. It's like 13 minutes left. You know, you get done, it's like, yeah, and you have a little tree, it goes in a thing. So again, just take advantage of the technology there is to help you build those reaffirmations. They're so easy and so effective. It has to be effective if it's going to be simple. So, or vice versa. YouTube is another really awesome one that you can find anything on there, knowledge, motivational videos. I really like a lot of the life and mental motivation ones on there. Again, just sending good stimulus in. It's the little things, walking more, parking your car farther away, the repeated changes that you make, and you have to really think about your process. Think deeply about how you're involved with that process, you know, consciously. When the wrapper falls out of your pocket, do you stop, do you turn around, do you pick it up? Do you care about those little things? Because if everyone cares, it's going to make a difference. And the whole adage that, well, it doesn't matter anyway, that needs to die. That needs to absolutely be thrown away. Every single decision matters, which is why I say community matters the most. Just a little blurb kind of on acute versus chronic disease, feeding into more of the nutrition talk we'll get into here, specifically diet. The acute system of Western medicine is great. It's fantastic. If you get hit by a bus, go see a doctor. They're going to take care of you. You know, I'm not going to be able to set your arm in place. But when it comes to chronic disease prevention and health optimization, we're missing the mark. We're being reactive. We're catching people at the bottom of the slide after they already get the scrape. So we need to allow our body to filter itself, regenerate itself naturally, use the things that we have on the planet. We need to use the sun. I'll get into a little research about that. Use the water, use the food, use the plants, and use the air that we breathe, and breathing techniques to make us function better. And it's funny because I always read all these scientific studies, and I go back to the old, you know, Native American proverbs and ancient adages of earth, wind, water, and fire, and you know, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. And you look at all these simple principles, and now they're being reduced and proven by science and feeding back into that hole. Like, we knew it all along, it's just people were stubborn to admit it because there wasn't an exact pathway and scientific study to show it, or repeated validity, really. There's a lot of studies out there that show something, but because they haven't been studied 50 times, had the funding, and shown 10 years of repeatability, nobody wants to give it merit, or at least personally research and investigate. So that's really what I like to do, is try some things out. That didn't work. That worked really well. I'm going to tell people about that. That's some good stuff. The chronic diseases are mainly due to the chemical exposures and the nutritional deficiencies that we see in all people. It's predicted that 50% of the youth by 2025 will be born with autism, and this is something that's preventable, that we absolutely have control. And that's the kind of message that we need to get out, is how can we make life better for subsequent generations? Because that's not happening right now. In fact, it's the only time in human history that we've seen a decline in the future generations' health, and expecting the older generations to outlive them in certain scenarios. That's really scary. That's really, really scary, because not only are we damaging the planet, but we're also harming the future generations of our own species. 25 years is about how long it takes for symptoms of Alzheimer's to kick in. Again, this is just feeding back into an example like autism, where at that point it's irreversible damage, but it's preventable previously. So dealing with that ahead of time is absolutely the necessity of that chronic disease prevention model that we need to build next to our acute disease model that we use today in Western medicine. It has to be proactive and not reactive. It starts on the individual level and then spreads to the community level. So clients and patients need to be active participants in their healing process. They need to know this information. They need to be empowered by this information. To know what a thyroid is, you don't have to know the physiological structure or how every chemical runs through the thyroid, but you gotta know what it does, because if you don't know what it does, then you don't know how to make it better. If you don't know how to make it better, then you're not feeding back into that hole of optimizing your health. So you have to have some of those basic understandings, and really that just comes from the doctors and people like me, the practitioners, giving out that information. Inflammation, like I was saying before, is the kind of it factor in what's causing all this problem. And I kind of just put a summary here to give you an idea visually. Imagine it as an inner battle inside your arteries and cells that causes heat and free radicals as byproducts to cause genetic mutation. And this can also lead to atherosclerosis, which is a big word everyone hears. And it just means hardening and narrowing of the arteries by the buildup of plaque. And so again, we're decreasing the function of that pump. And when you decrease the function of that pump, you get stagnancy, stagnant water, bad fruit. It's the same example everywhere in living things, causes rot throughout the system. And that's what we see with heart disease, is the lymphatic system can't do its job. The blood can't pump through to get that out old in new kind of model with the circulation. And that's when we start to see the disease develop, because of the stagnancy and the genetic mutation that happens from that. So, if you imagine two armies battling, your immune system versus the toxins and the junk that you put in, there's going to be dead soldiers. There's going to be a lot of heat and dead byproducts and waste that accumulates. And that's going to cause all that heat and that inflammation. And then your body goes in as an autoimmune response, and it says, it thinks there's more damage and more soldiers to fight. So it sends an autoimmune response and starts attacking some of the extra byproducts and some of the other actual cells involved that are the good guys. And this starts another battle that is increasing the inflammation again, increasing more byproducts, and repeating and worsening the situation. So that's the primary cause for all chronic disease. And most of it starts in the gut. You eat those bad soldiers, they come in and attack your castle, and then your castle is trying to clean everything out, and it gets overwhelmed. It's an easy model to see how that can happen over a long period of time. Which is kind of one of my biggest focuses of research right now, is we need to maximize the microbiome, which is just from the mouth to the butt, that whole system. It's actually considered outside of the body because it's completely separated from the rest of the body with its own system. The skin separates it from any other cells. So when they say the gut-brain connection, that is how we developed more of our frontal brain, of the monkey brain, is the metabolic activity switched from a primary focus to the gut brain, and up to the frontal lobe. So that's why there's such a big gut-brain connection, because we actually have neurons, 500,000 neurons in our gut, identical to the neurons that we have in our brain. There is communication that goes on there, not only between the gut and the brain, but between the food in the gut and the gut and the brain. So it's a very, very big connection, and that's where all the reduced science is showing that deeper they get onto the chemical level, the more they see that it actually does matter. You are what you eat, and the way that that thing is that you put in your body was raised also matters. What it ate is also what you are going to be. So you have to really think of it in terms of, you know, growing the food, the process of where the food came from, your involvement with it when you're cooking and eating it. Are you thinking positive thoughts? Feeding into some of the psychology research I looked at. This was really, really interesting. They took people with multiple personality disorders and they measured physiological readings on their body, heart rate, enzyme sensitivity, food allergies, different things, and they found when someone was in one personality, they would be allergic to one type of food, and in another personality, same person, same day even, completely no response whatsoever. They did it with citrus, was one of the big ones they found. One person would be allergic to citrus and they'd shift a personality and not be allergic to it and it'd be totally fine in the body. And they also showed, this was a really big one to me, insulin resistance. So type 2 diabetes. In one person, shifted personalities, no longer insulin sensitive, blood glucose levels down to a normal regulated rate. I mean, that's some powerful stuff right there. That's really, really interesting because it shows what you're thinking about not only affects how you feel, but it truly changes your physical structure, it changes your physiological expression. And that's some pretty powerful stuff because it really ties into body image and your thoughts all day long, your conscious thoughts all day long. Are you thinking positive or are you trying to limit negative? Are you going back to those psychological principles? You know, body image is huge. If you go to the gym and you say, I'm out of shape, I can't do this, I'm no good, every single day, you know, whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right. It really is feeding into that physiological effect where if you're eating food and you're thinking, this is great food, this is going to do me well, you're going to be able to break that food down better. Another study they showed of absorption rate versus digestion of how much calories you were actually absorbing from the food you were eating, and depending on the personality you were in, depended on how many of those calories you actually absorbed. So if you're like, I'm in my binge mode, I'm gonna go get sweeties and all that, and you had X amount of calories, and you're like, I'm gonna have a healthy meal, and you go have that X amount of calories, the same amount, you'd actually break down the other food better just because of thinking of it as doing better for your body. So that mind-power connection is really big, and a lot of the scientific research is showing those physiological connections. It's pretty crazy. You know, the mind is more powerful than we really know, and if it shows those kind of physiological benefits or changes in little studies that we've done, I mean, there's some big implications there. One of the books I recommend is The Blue Zones, and this is really feeding into what I was talking about. The blue zones, if you haven't heard, are the areas in the world where people live on average consistently to the age of 100 with low risk of disease and high optimized health. And they're all over the place, and really they're studying them to try to figure out how can we replicate this, how can we make this everywhere. And one of the biggest things about those communities that they find is it's not that they're all on the same diet, it's not that they all do the same thing, it's that they're a community and they have the same mindset and they all believe in the same values and principles and things to benefit those future generations. And a lot of the research that I've seen shows that's why civilizations came together. They saw that the genetic expression that you portray is directly a consequence of the environment you put yourself in. So you are what you eat, you are what you preach, all of those things matter. And enough people got together that were like, hey, we should start our own village of positive thoughts and health optimization so that way we can make the world a better place and make sure future generations are healthy and happy. I want my grandkids to live a long, healthy, happy life on a healthy planet. So, you know, a lot of people long time ago had the same brain that we did, the same ideas that we did, came together and started making this stuff happen. And then industry and technology and a lot of things got in the way, and we started to lose a lot of those origins and started really to disbelieve them. You know, the naturopathic type of medicine and alternative medicine, the ancient origins, are all getting proven true through reduced science now, just showing that we have had the answers, we just have to start implementing them more. And that's my biggest goal is I do it, I change all the products in my house, I change the way I eat, and it's a journey that I'm still going on and that I've barely embarked on myself, you know, in the last 3-4 years of my life, and I'm still making crazy changes that I just changed my laundry detergent the other day and like reading about the facts of that. There's actually meritable evidence to show that if you make the shift over to an economic or a biodegradable product, biodiverse product, you're making a better decision for the earth, for yourself, for your clothes, for your skin, for the people you come in contact with. All those decisions matter. So you just have to really involve yourself in the process, like I said. The other book is The Urban Monk, and this book is by a Dr. Pedram Shoji, I believe, and really, really influential guy. He's done a lot of things all around the world, starting organizations, nonprofit, and spreading this message, trying to help people take back control in their health and their happiness. And his big 3 points that I just wanted to bring in because I thought they were really good. Stop the bleeding, number 1. Limit the toxins that are coming into the body. They matter. Start taking account for them. Think about the process. Stop the bleeding. Number 2, repair the liver and the gut. Everyone says you don't need to detox. Our body is a natural filter. It's 100% true, but they're talking in a very idealistic sense where we're out in a laboratory-like world. We're not. We're exposed to a lot of stuff out there, a lot of bad stuff. And we've done a lot of bad stuff previously that we need to take account for and start to remedy. So we need to repair the liver and the gut. My advice for that, I recommend a probiotic for absolutely everybody. Everybody should take one. The lactobacillus is just acidophilus is one of the main ones. There's a couple other ones too, without naming off nerdy strands of bacteria. But they're very, very effective in getting out the nasty bacteria that have lodged themselves in your gut castle, getting them out and restoring the soldiers that you have in there so you can absorb food better, so you can circulate all your fluids better. You can do those things you need to optimize your health. A liver support, there's tons of different ones. The probiotic for the gut, and then liver support. You can Google top liver supports. I'll give you a website recommendation in a minute. Hawthornberry, milk thistle, there's a ton of saw palmetto. We've all heard them before. We know the natural herbs, and I don't know about that. There's a lot of evidence to go about those things if you're doing them synergistically with everything else. If you're doing 1% out of the 100, probably not going to get a lot of results. Same thing if you come to the gym 2 hours a week, but you eat French fries at McDonald's every day. You have to look at the whole. You can't just say, I'm doing this one thing. So it's definitely going to help, but as long as you have everything else and you've stopped the bleeding, then you can start to repair the system. So liver support and a gut support, aka probiotic. Also probiotic-rich foods, fermented foods, sauerkraut, Greek yogurt. You have to be careful that it's not a corporate-produced thing where it's grain-fed. You want to have a grass-fed, quality product. Sauerkraut's super easy to make. You put cabbage in salt water pretty much and let it sit. So not everybody responds to fermented foods the same way. There is no 1% answer. So again, it's looking at the totality, but it definitely helps to take a bite of sauerkraut every day if you like or enjoy or can tolerate sauerkraut. Take a bite every day. You're getting the bacteria in your gut that's going to help those soldiers in the castle. So it's a little thing like that you can do. But taking a probiotic is a really good way to get a multiple array of those enzymes in your gut every day, especially if you're looking to start with a repair, a detox. Get a probiotic. That's going to detox the gut, and that's going to help you a lot more than just dumping out the old bacteria. You have to put in new good bacteria. The third thing, cultivate energy. Going back to it, social exercise, breathing, yoga, tai chi, dance, whatever you want to do, but getting back in touch with your body's natural ability to create energy, which sounds kind of corny and voodoo-y, but I actually want to produce some good science here that I've read that's blew my mind. So hopefully you guys think this is pretty cool too. The research in water right now and the ability of water to use light waves to convert light energy, sun energy, into energy in our mitochondria is something that's being studied heavily, and it's called cellular bioenergetics. And what happens, and there's a lot of research, this guy, Jared Pollack, if you want to write that down, Jared, Pollack, has a TED Talks, TEDx, on water research. And if you just Google his name, YouTube that TEDx, that'll come up, the fourth phase of water, water molecules. But his overall synopsis over years of research, deep and very valid research, shows that 99% of the molecules in the body are H2O molecules, or water molecules, and we thought of it more as just the medium. But now as we start to do more research in a lot of other areas of life other than just physiologically, the medium is the it. That's what we need to start focusing on more. And so that 99% functions with everything. And the power output, this is an interesting study, the power output it takes to pump blood through the millions of miles of vasculature throughout the body is close to 1 million times more energy and effort than it takes the heart to pump. So there's a lot more energy that we need to pump that blood than we know about. How are we getting that energy? Well, a lot of the research is showing that our body uses sunlight and uses water to convert into energy that we use just for a lot of functioning daily tasks. There's a lot of research going into this right now, free energy, our ability to cultivate free energy using breathing techniques, using water, and using sun is valid and getting heavily researched, and it's really, really interesting. The fourth phase of water is the title of that, his research, I believe, or book. Maybe it's the name of the TEDx, that's just what I have here. A couple benefits that you can do to your water: filter it so you're not getting the fluoride. I'm a big proponent in trying to reduce fluoridation. The fluoridation can reduce the size of your pineal gland, it can have other effects on your hormonal imbalance, so it's just something to consider. Add pink Himalayan salt to your water. That's going to help with action potential function all the way down to every single cell function there is.
Pink
yeah, pink Himalayan salt, pink salt. Find it at Walmart.
What about Hawaiian pink salt?
I've never heard of Hawaiian pink salt, but I'm sure they're the same kind of idea, just raw organic salt with trace minerals in it.
My daughter lives in Hawaii and sends me.
Yeah, I would assume it's the exact same thing. You know, just a quality
It's
source
the
of pink salt.
Because there's black salt from volcanic areas.
Yeah, there's different types. It's just the trace amount of minerals in the different salts. For example, there's another type of salt right now. I thought this was pretty cool. It's called Celtic salt, and all it is normal salt with a carbon molecule attached to it, therefore making it a living organic compound. And there's added benefits to that. Not much that I know of, at least I haven't researched it, but I thought it's something that's new and it sounds pretty cool, you know, just another thing, maybe one little bit better step right there, but just was interesting, organic living salt. Lemon juice is also great. It helps to express different triggers for enzymes by its presence with the water, so not only can it help with flavor, but it's got some other benefits to it too. And there's phytochemicals in the lemon juice as well, different things that all are we're finding are making its way to different mitochondria and converting into energy. So the more we can convert things into energy and cultivate that energy within us, the better. Another really good one going off the water, same exact research is going in with the sun. We can convert the energy from the sun, or we can convert sunlight into energy via water in our body. Just like a car battery kind of idea, like a solar panel, we can actually absorb and utilize that energy. It's a specific type of mitochondria. It's like a mitochondria, something like that. And I thought that was really interesting too, because we had that talk yesterday about a sun lamp, and just noticing when the weather's nice, or usually when it's a nice day out, what do you want to do? Oh, let's do something outside. Or I'm active when it's rainy and cloudy and dreary, it's Netflix time and blanket and cocoa. Everybody does that. I'm the same way. When it's nice out and it's bright out over the summer, I have longer days, more activity. When the nights get shorter, or when the evening hits at an earlier time, productivity goes down. So they recommended buying a sun lamp, especially if you're in an area where you don't get at least 30 minutes exposure to sun every day, just for the ability to convert that light energy into energy that you can utilize in your body. I've heard some anecdotal research on that from friends and just other professionals I've heard talk about it, all with thumbs up. I've never heard anything bad. The sun lamps are pretty cheap nowadays. Why not? The same thing with vitamins. There's a lot of good research to support it. It's super cheap and easy, so why not?
John, my
yeah.
doctor told me that you have to have at least 10,000 LUX, which is the gauge of potency.
Yeah.
So he said be careful what you order online, because it needs to have a therapeutic dose for that 20, 30 minutes. So
Okay,
10,000
LUX. Good to know, good to know. Yeah, because I haven't looked much into it myself, but just from the research I see and where the studies are going, there's going to be more stuff like that. It's like this much this much, use this, that. So that's good to know.
10,000 LUX of sun exposure or the medication?
From the sunlight.
From the lamp itself that's
Oh,
The,
gotcha.
Putting out.
the whatever output it gives you, you need 10,000 units of it. That's cool. I'm interested in more of that too, just natural sunlight and the different things, because one of the big problems too is chemical exposure, one of them being sunblock. Sunblock blocks UVB rays, but not UVA rays, which are actually 95% of the sun exposure. You get the 5% from the ultraviolet rays that are the ones that are bad for the skin, are barely being blocked by the sunblock. And the sunblock is really just artificially keeping you out in the sun longer, when the red skin from the sunburn is your natural indicator from your body to say, hey, you got it, you're good, get inside, no more sun. So when we synthetically cover on something to block that signal from happening, we're still getting cooked by the sun. The sunblock's not blocking the rays from the UVA, so we're still getting that exposure, and we're still getting problems from that in relation to the skin cancers from overexposure. But also we're getting an extreme amount of endocrine disruptors, hormone disruptors, and chemical exposure and toxins from the sunscreen. And one of the doctors I follow, he has some really intriguing research and referenced a couple of books. There's a lot of research on it right now coming out, and valid research, because of the severity of the toxin level of sunblock and how important it is to not have it on your body. And the direct mechanisms, they've found exact correlation, like no maybes. It's a direct pathway involvement between the specific certain chemicals that are in sunblock to negative health effects, cancer, melanoma, those kind of things. So very big research, very significant research. So just something that I thought to mention. Be careful, don't use sunblock. Gauge your sunlight by your body. That's what it's meant to do.
For someone who plays golf, what do they say? Because when you look at a professional golfer, they're out there 5 or 6 days a week.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, with everything that we do in all of these fields, you cannot ever reduce and limit to one answer, because there's so many different individual lifestyle choices that we make every single day. Our jobs, it's the same in the fitness industry. When I train athletes, what happens in hockey a lot? Groin injuries and knee injuries. Well, why? Because you're skating left to right all day long. The human body's not meant to do that for 8 hours a day. No way. That's why you see overuse injuries in running, the knee. It's not meant to do that chronic long-term running, those certain things. In golf, you get a lot of low back injuries, and, baseball, a lot of overhead throwing sports, you have injuries, just because of overuse. Same thing, overuse with the sun. So it's just finding ways to remedy and combat that are actually effective and safe. And so new research will point the ways, but also, again, listening to that intuition, kind of some of the ancient proverbs of knowledge, like don't go out in the sun longer than an hour, and trying to find ways to get out of the sun when you can. Go sit in the golf cart, get under a tree, wear a light dry wick long sleeve shirt, the khaki pants, whatever you got to do. Just start at least being conscious of your decision to prevent it or go against it in some way. Fight the fight in some way that you can, even though you're not going to be able to win every battle. One of the other things, just to touch on quickly, essential oils is another one of those naturopathic remedies that is getting a lot of global research, actually more from India and Iran, and there was a couple other countries in the Middle East. I believe Russia too has been doing some good research. The National Institute of Health is against doing anything that is cheap and effective and good for empowering independence of personal health, which is obviously one of the biggest battles that I myself and other practitioners are fighting, is the money game. Everything's a money game, and someone wants your money. And someone doesn't want to make you healthy, someone wants to take your money. So the American health institutes and a lot of the areas that rely on pharmacy and Western medicine to make money, food industry is another really big one. They're not going to want to promote this stuff and teach people, hey, yeah, if you just, go do that 5 minutes by yourself every single day, you won't ever have to come back to me. So it's a business and it's a money thing. But essential oils, this was a really cool study they did in hospitals with nurses. Citrus blend aromatherapy was put in hospitals, and before and after they did a pre-trial with, I think it was 108 subjects of nurses, and They did subjective survey questionnaires and measured physiological objective heart rate and anxiety, stress level indicators. And then they implemented these citrus blends. They did an orange blend and a lemon blend, and then like a grapefruit, orange, lemon, citrus blend. They found the citrus blend to be the best, but 54 to 2% anxiety recorded in these nurses. I mean, that, it basically wiped it out completely. You know, I mean, that's very incredible numbers for nurses that run an extremely high stress job in an extremely physically high stress environment where everything is sanitized, everything is resistant to antibiotics and antibacterial stuff, you know, like the liquid hand soap and the cleaners and the sprays. They're in a very, very stressful environment for their body to optimize health. And to see anxiety drop from half of them to none of them, that's very, very, very significant research. So something to look at more. And what's cool about this kind of stuff, but also very frustrating, is we find out cool research, but then nobody wants to do it because it was one study, one time. And it was so, you know, against the money and stuff, they're going to fight that battle. They're going to say, oh, it's not effective. We'll spend another 15 years trying to research the exact number one mechanism to answer the question why, instead of just implementing something that we know that works. You know, who cares if we know what pathway it takes to get there? We know that we fixed it. And that's what we should start focusing on, is those kind of things. Lavender for sleep, peppermint oil for GI tract relief, tea tree oil for athlete's foot and or other funguses. There's a lot of postulation that the antibiotics-resistant superbugs that are coming out are the biggest problem, the biggest global epidemic we face as humans, because of their ability to resist antibiotics and wipe out the immune system. I mean, if it can outlast our immune system, and our immune system is not functioning well, that's going to win. They're going to take over the castle. They're going to win the fight. So a lot of people are going to die. The young and old, like the West Nile virus, that's nothing compared to what antibiotic super-resistant bugs can do. I mean, they can just wipe out populations. And the problem is nowadays, it's not just the young and the old. The middle age, everyone is impaired. Everyone has, you know, not enough soldiers in their gut. Everyone has a weakened immune system. Everyone has inflammation of some kind already. Most people, because they don't take those things into consideration. If you don't know, you don't know, and that's the hardest part, is to try to make decisions that are good for you when you really don't know the answer, which is why you have to look at this stuff and empower yourself individually. The essential oil research is growing, and the biggest thing, that the 2 points that were made from the research I've looked at, is only buy genuine oils. Everyone wants to sell diluted oils, and fractionated oils is what it's called, and they just basically cut it up and sell you a crappy version of it. For example, a bottle, this was a cool example that just I thought kind of rung home. Genuine rose oil is $300 a bottle. And you dilute it, you do 1 drop in the water and stuff, but when you buy them online for $10 or from Walmart, that's not rose oil. So you're not going to get any of the therapeutic remedial benefits that you would, and then that's why most people go, this is hogwash, because they took 2% of the efficacy needed for the results to happen. So make sure that it's a quality source, and always dilute. I don't know very much about essential oils other than I like to use peppermint oil in either my toothpaste and or to smell, just to open up my lungs, bronchodilation. Lavender oil is also really good for calming you down and relaxing the limbic system, which helps calm the fight or flight and helps bring down kind of nerve stimulus response actions. This was a really good stat I wanted to bring up for supplements and really just vegetables in general. 9% of Americans eat vegetables regularly, and this needs to be the #1 focus, and I think is one of the tipping points. Buy and grow organic, local produce. I can't ring that home enough. Just eat real food. And if you're not getting your servings of vegetables, they have a cool new product out there called a green supplement, or a super greens, if you've ever heard of it. I would just Google organic greens supplement. A website, you can write this down, is a comparative website for supplements. I've been using it for a few years. It's called labdoor.com, and it will compare quality versus price on a ton of different products. There'll be fish oil, and it'll give you the top 25 fish oil, super greens, multivitamin, protein powder, vitamin D, vitamin C. It'll give you all these brands of the price and the quality of all of them. So I use that website and recommend it for people to start to gain independent health, but also have, you know, a good review to understand and evaluate the differences between the quality and price of different products. Pick one that's good for you. GMO, organic brand, organic green supplement. That helps you narrow out some of the problems that we're seeing. My biggest recommendation when you want to start addressing where do I start, what do I need to take, how do I improve my health, get blood work done to test your nutritional deficiencies and your hormonal deficiencies. Those are the two things that you'll know objectively with numbers. I need to take this supplement to raise this specific vitamin level. I need to raise this hormone level, so I need to do these 3 things that are directly related to raising that hormone level. So that way you can't just kind of guess, as opposed to like, you'll see vitamin therapy where like, just take a multivitamin and hope you get it. But you might be so low in one specific one that taking the multivitamin isn't enough. You need to singularly supplement with vitamin B. There's the B complex vitamins is a big one. Vitamin D especially, I take vitamin D and C. Though we don't get very much sun exposure, take the vitamin D. It's involved in every cellular process we have in our body. It's great for producing neurotransmitters related to happiness. It's literally called the happy vitamin. The research shows that a lot of depression is related to vitamin D deficiencies. Just like the anxiety has direct correlations to some of the different problems that we see from the chronic stress, the same kind of depression and mood disorders all feed into that same system, and they most of them all stem from that inflammation, that inflammatory response, autoimmune response in the body. So get the blood work done so you can know what your nutritional and hormonal deficiencies are, so you can start bringing those up. Just like once you stop the bleeding, repair the damage, bring those things back up. Just a quick touch on skin. Take note of everything you come in contact with, the chemicals, especially females with beauty products, hygiene products, laundry soap, dish soap. It all does matter, and your skin is the largest organ on your body, and it is the cell membrane, in the biggest sense. It's taking in absolutely everything from the environment, and it's changing the whole. The genetic mutation happens, positive or negative, throughout the entire system when it comes in contact with the skin, which is why essential oils are so effective, because within 20 minutes of putting on an essential oil, it has gone through and affected and come in contact with every single cell membrane in your body. It works that fast, which is why people say it has, magical healing benefits, because within 20 minutes they're miraculously better. But it's not that they're miraculously better, that's how fast it takes to run through your body. So the cells on the skin are very, very important. Make sure that you're paying attention to the skin to notice any kind of precursor signs. It's the #1 indicator for cancer and other genetic mutation damage, inflammatory damage. If you get a rash, if you get any kind of skin irritation, that is a direct sign from the body. Just like the sun, overexposure, there was some sort of exposure to something the body didn't like. So take that as an indicator of the environmental stimulus that are coming into the body. That physiological change, the molecular change, happens to the organism, even though you might not see it on that surface level. So make sure you're not letting your insides get beat up and encouraging that inflammation process.
We've done any studies on colognes and perfumes?
Yep, absolutely.
As far as which ones, because there's certain ones, if I'm in the grocery store, I can almost tell which one it is immediately. It's just overwhelming.
Yeah, and some will give you a headache right away, and some make people nauseous. And really a lot of it is just the triggers that you have set up, the genetic cards that you got dealt for your poker hand. And then the river, turn, and flop, all those cards are the environmental exposures that you have. So for some people, they're going to get some matches, positive and negative, with whatever environmental exposure they have, depending on their genetic makeup. But the genetic makeup doesn't solidify the chance of that happening, only if they come in contact with that genetic expression. So that's why some colognes do it and some don't. And there's definitely certain chemicals that do trigger more of a negative response, and some that are just outright bad for everybody. Like in the sunscreen example, they've just found there's ones that are directly nobody, that's bad for everybody, just like rat poison. There's ones that you just can't take in any dose, it's going to be detrimental. So there are definitely a lot of colognes that have some and or of one of the chemicals that can have that response. So knowing what goes into it, and I'll give you guys a couple websites at the end, just kind of like to make some of those changes and like, oh, this is one that you can buy that's good, and this, so we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it really all does matter, all of those things that you're exposed to. And it's really interesting to see the responses in the body get overlooked by people when really those are the sensitive alarms from the body, like pain is a state of abnormality. That's a sign of the body saying something's not in its right place, something's not going the way it should be. All those responses.
That's my class at 10:30, FYI.
Oh, okay, cool. Sounds good. Oh shit, guys, sorry. Okay, let me wrap this up. I got a couple websites to give you guys. One thing really quick, spices, that's a big one. So water, sun, those are two to really start thinking about getting into your diet. Breathing, good air, breathing techniques, yoga, social exercise. Buy a spice rack. Spices are one of the most nutrient dense things there are out there, but make sure you're buying organic spices. If it's a low quality spice like McCormick, I found this out very recently, they are exposed to very, very extreme levels of gamma radiation, 250 million more times than is healthy for the human body. So even though it's just a tiny little bit of pepper, crazy amounts of genetic mutation can happen from it. So it's a money game. They're trying to sell you cheap stuff so that way you buy it and keep buying it and never get healthy. So make sure that it's super easy to grow a window box of 5 different herbs, little things like that. Buy quality salt and pepper. They're really nutrient dense, so start sprinkling it on everything. That really will help the immune system and the overall system work better. Turmeric is one that's really good. The meta-analysis I read showed a remedy of over 700 diseases using turmeric, and it has 207 known pharmacological actions within the body. So it really is, if you were to point out the word quote-unquote superfood, it is one of the ones that you really want to take note of. Do we really need to know the exact mechanisms and pathways to try something out for ourselves when there's plenty of clinical and anecdotal evidence to show an easier way? That's my message. Can you make those choices yourself? So here's some websites I'll give you guys and I'll get you out of here. Sorry for taking so long. Bountifulbaskets.org. It's a community co-op website where you log on, create a free account, and then every week the community gets together and basically buys an extremely large amount of vegetables and produce and fruit from the local farmers for a cheaper price, just like any kind of wholesale thing. They bring the truck gets divvied up into boxes by the volunteers each week within the community, and then sold for a very cheap price to anyone that wants to get online and buy a box.
Have you noticed they're not doing that this winter?
I just looked online, I checked it out. I haven't seen them for the winter, but there is one, not in the Pullman area, but there's one for Moscow. It's the week A, and
Oh, I haven't seen it like at all this winter.
yeah, I haven't seen it for the winter either, but I went on the website this week and it's on there. It's week A. This week was a week B, but starting Monday will be the week A, and then you just order it online, use a debit card.
Where they have to drop off in Moscow?
It's different. You just look online and it'll say, like the ones here are usually at Schweitzer or down at Higginson's Furniture, depending just where it is, depending on the day. Probably the people that put it together are the ones that decide, hey, we're gonna do it here, box it up, get volunteers, and put it all out. But it's $15 for a box of produce that's like $40 of stuff. You can buy $10 more for organic. Obviously, that's what I'm gonna recommend you do. All that stuff matters. So $25 for a large box of 50% fruit and vegetables. It's absolutely worth it. It's really cool. You get really good diversity of food too. Thrivemarket.com, that's another one that is thrivemarket.com. It's like the co-op meets Amazon. You go online and buy your co-op products, your non-perishables, your organic this, organic that, chia seeds, flax seeds. And also my biggest thing that I like about them is living products. They have all beauty care, hygiene care, soap, shampoo. These are companies that have no bad chemicals in them. They support really good nonprofit organizations. A lot of them are feeding kids, buying bikes, providing public education, a lot of really good stuff through thrivemarket.com. So, grazie. Oh yeah, I gotta mention that too. Farmers markets, obviously, are where you're gonna get in contact with the local produce. That's how I found tourmalinefarms.com, TOURMALINE farms.com.
Do that again.
TOURMALINE farms.com, tourmalinefarms.com. Grass-fed, grass-finished, 90%, 10%, $6 a pound for ground beef. They've got all sorts of cuts on cows. They rotate their crops. They practice biodiversity. They're, in my opinion, the most organic area around here. I trust them 100%. That's where I buy my meat. That's where I get my stuff. They sell eggs $5 a dozen, milk $7 a half dozen, kefir. They sell poultry and beef. Really, really good website. I'm sure there's others, but that's just one to give you as a reference to check out. So you can Google that. buy a water filter. You know, it's a really easy thing to do. Set it as your habits. Fill the water filter every day. It matters. I promise you it does. Another one which will stir controversy and a lot of old thinking, but again, new science shows new research that the electromagnetic waves, especially from your phone, can cause a lot of distortion and genetic mutation. We're seeing a lot more parietal lobe cancer and a lot more issues with the vestibulo-ocular system, the ear and the balance and everything, just from having that cell phone there all the time. You can buy a chip. It's called LifeWave. This is legit. This was recommended to me by a doctor, and it is an electromagnetic wave disruptor that you put on your phone. It's a little thing. You've probably seen the infomercials for it. Those ones are really bad. They block like 2 to 4%. This one blocks up to 98%, something absolutely fantastic. It's like $40. So definitely worth the investment. When I was told about this, I was told with significance, and it's important. So that's just something if you want to live a long, healthy life. Easy fix, $40, no big deal. Get your sun. Don't let the sunscreen keep you out in the sun. Use your body's natural indicators. Get lots of water. In fact, the recommendations now for water are skyrocketing. Get more, get more, get more, get more. Our body works on it so much and needs it so much that it's a big part of the pump that pushes the fluids in and out of the body. Get your veggies, eat more veggies. If you can't get at least 7 servings of veggies a day, 7 servings of veggies a day, then start supplementing with a green supplement of some kind. That will definitely help your body convert chlorophyll into energy. It's basically a mini version of photosynthesis. We now know our bodies as animals can do that. We just have to do it as a digestive process in the mitochondria as opposed to absorbing it via our cell membranes. But that process, again, is converted with water. So we know that we do function very similar to plants in that way. Positive thinking and community. Bring that mindset, that positive mindset together. Start building that community. Get other people to realize it's not a lost cause. We are winning the fight. We just need more people to think about this as a good thing and a cool thing and not think that it's some smart hocus pocus stuff. Nutritionfacts.org. This is a great website that is a nonprofit by he's one of the directors of the Humane Society, and this guy is like nerd wizard maximum. He's like socially awkward. He's not even good at presenting information, but his website is just phenomenal, and it's all the research, fish oil, flax seeds, all the stuff that you hear about in social media and all that kind of stuff. This is where they actually take the meta-analysis from scientists. They take the information, they peer review it, and put it into a nice little article. Hey, do this because it's good for you in these ways. Really good website. Mercola.com, Joseph Mercola, naturopathic doctor, holistic mindset, lots of internet influence. Really good website. DoctorYourself.com. It's another really good source. Vitamin therapy, using your body's natural ability to heal disease. And I mean, it lists on there on the left from an A to Z index of just a ridiculous amount of things that this stuff will fix and help. So it's a really good website where you're like, well, what do I need for this? Go to that website and it'll tell you. Examine.com. It's a supplement website review. Very scientific literature on that website. They have a lot of reviews and summaries of different supplements. You can type in creatine and get absolutely the encyclopedia on creatine and why it's good for you and what it does and the significance through research trials. Very well done website, very dense website. Labdoor.com, like I already said, was the comparative website to check out those supplements once you've read about them and know which ones you want to take. MobilityWOD.com, MobilityWOD.com is a website to obviously learn exercise techniques, not really exercise, but more stretches and mobility stuff that you can do to open up your body, encourage that range of motion, and start getting you moving healthier again, preventing injury and reducing pain. And then Precision Nutrition. So you guys got those infographics there. I'll let you read those on your own since we're behind. But precisionnutrition.com is the website you can go to that has a lot of really good nutritional guidance where those infographics are from. They're very good at taking dense information like this and simplifying it into nice, easy to use and applicable infographics and articles. The last one is theptdc.com. And that's the Personal Trainer Development Center, which sounds like it would only be for personal trainers, but they really just shuttle information about exercise, information about movement, fat loss, muscle gain, optimizing health, building strength, preventing injury, fixing injuries, whatever. They're really informative and have a lot of good stuff. I lied. The last one I have is billionsinchange.com. And this website is just a proactive company that is creating technology to further benefit the health of the globe and the human species. So if you're interested in just kind of looking into the proactive side of those things, if you want to contribute in any way, I love that website. I'm subscribed to their email and they really help out. Lastly, this Wild Tree freezer meal workshop, food prep class that we're having on Sunday, April 10th. The registration is today, it's right here, and it's $79 per person and includes 6 to 8 full-size Wild Tree products, shopping and prep lists, recipes, labels, and a meal plan. So this is the direct next step to everything I just said about optimizing your health. Well, how do I do that, John, objectively with a plan, and what food do I use and how much of each food, and how can I make it fit for my life? That's this Wild Tree workshop right here. We're going to be doing the same thing, just getting together. I'm going to try to interject some pieces with the representative that comes, so that way we can kind of have that synergistic effect of teaching people about nutrition, but also the process and enjoyment of making and eating the food, which I think is a really under-emphasized part of the entire journey. If you don't like doing it, you're not going to keep doing it. So learn how to like it so you love to do it and keep doing it and make your health better. That's all I got, guys. Any questions? Last minute?
Let's head on up to the front
Okay,
table
yeah.
out there and let Zumba start.
Yeah.